Oh, hey there. I'm here to remind you that what is legal and what is right often are not the same thing, okay? Now, I'm not saying everywhere. I'm not saying that everything that the law says is right or wrong. What I'm saying is we need to question that. And just because the law says we can do something doesn't mean that we should do something. Legally, I can take a hammer and smash myself in the face, and there's nothing wrong with that, as long as I don't kill myself, and then it's a crime because I'm murdering myself. But I can do that legally. I think it's a dumb move, okay? I can drink myself into oblivion, as long as I don't get in a car and wreck it or whatever, get a DUI, then I can do that. I choose not to do that. I don't want to live my life like that. There are a lot of things that you can do legally that aren't necessarily right. And there's a lot of things that legally you're not supposed to do. Sometimes they're not right, okay? There was a certain incident like 3 years ago, I'm sure you guys probably remember, where it was never technically law, but it was strongly enforced. And now a lot of people are suffering a lot of consequences. And in my opinion, there are times when you go, you know what? This isn't right. I don't care what the law is. I'm not going to do this. That was one of those times for me. There are several others, right? I had somebody this last week and they said, sir, I'm just doing my job. And I'm like, but we both know that what you're talking about is wrong. And he goes, I'm just doing my job. And I'm like, that's what the Nazis said. That's what they said when they crucified Jesus, is, sir, I'm just doing my job. Like, there has to come a point where critical thinking has to come in, where morality has to come in, where we answer to God and we go, you know what? I'm not going to do the bad thing. I don't care what my boss says, and I don't care what's legal. Like, I'm not going to do the bad thing, or I am going to do the good thing, or whatever the case may be. There are so many examples of when this has happened. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that's one. They were told that by King Nebuchadnezzar in ancient Babylon that there's a huge gold statue of him, and that when the music played, they had to bow down and worship the statue of Nebuchadnezzar. And everybody else in the country bowed down except for 3 guys. Now you can imagine what kind of courage it took for them to do that, to be standing there knowing this is punishable by death. Not just you're going to lose your job, not you're going to, not be able to buy groceries or whatever. Like, you will die immediately. They're going to take you right over there and put you in a fire. Can you smell that fire? Because it's burning right now, and you're about to be in it if you don't do what they say. And they sized that up and they said, we've decided that we're not going to do this. And so everybody else dropped down to their knees and bowed down and worshiped, except for these 3 men. And then they were brought before the king. And he's like, look, I like you guys. You work for me. You're setting a bad example. I don't care if you mean it. Just do it. A lot of people did that 3 years ago too. They're like, I'll just get a fake card or whatever. I don't know what I'm talking about. And they said, know this, O king, that the God that we serve is able to deliver us. And even if he doesn't, we will never bow to this image of you. Never. Because we would defile ourselves and we would defile God. And we will not dishonor him or ourselves. And he was like, ooh. And then you know what happened? A lot of you do. But for those of you that don't, let me just go ahead and tell you. This is what happened. Nebuchadnezzar was so mad that he had the fire heated up 7 times hotter. That's a pretty hot fire. I've been around a lot of fires. And he had strong men bind them up and throw them into the fire. And it was so hot that the men that threw them into the fire were burned up and died. And after a little while, Nebuchadnezzar was looking in the fire like, ha, look what I've done. And he goes, didn't we throw 3 men in there? And they're like, yeah. And he goes, there are 4 men walking around inside that fire, and one of them looks like a son of God. And he goes to the entrance. He says, hey, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, come outside. And they did. And at that point, he said, anybody who says anything bad about these 3 men or the God they serve will be cut into pieces and their houses turned into rubble. That's a direct quote. Because they chose to stand for what was right rather than what everybody else in the world did. Now, I'm not saying go around and break the law. What I'm saying is there are times when the law is wrong. And if that is the case, have the courage to do the right thing.